During the summer of 2003, events in the northeastern United States involving a strange, human-like creature sparked brief local media interest, and an apparent blackout was enacted soon after. Little to no information was left intact, as most online and written accounts of the creature were mysteriously destroyed. Primarily focused in the rural New York state, self-proclaimed witnesses told stories of their encounters with a creature of unknown origin. Emotions ranged from extremely traumatic levels of fright and discomfort, while others almost childlike sense of playfulness and curiosity. However, one thing remained consistent. The memories. Always powerful. Several parties then began looking for answers, just last year. In early 2006, the collaboration had accumulated nearly 24 documents dating between the 12th century and present day, spanning at least 4 continents. In almost all cases, the stories were nearly identical. I've been in contact with a member of this group and was able to get some excerpts of their newest book, The Rake. This was a suicide note that we found in 1964.
As I prepare to take my life, I feel it necessary to assuage any guilt or pain that I have introduced through this act. It's not the fault of me or anyone, really, other than it. Once I awoke, I felt his presence, and once I awoke, I saw his form. And once again, I woke and heard his voice. And I looked into his eyes. I can't sleep without fear of what might be my next experience when I wake up. I cannot ever wake, so this is where I say goodbye.
Similar notes were found in the same wooden box, where at least 2 empty envelopes addressed to William Rose, which the collaboration would not give identification to, but we suspect they are family members of the assailant that wrote this. Author that wrote this. There was one personal letter in particular addressed to Rose, but it had no envelope involved. Dearest Rose, I prayed for you. I prayed for you. I really did. I'm sorry. I prayed, but it spoke your name. I found this one particularly interesting, being that of a Spanish man who had found himself in northeastern New York in the 1880s. Tengo experiencia en el mayor terror. He experimentado el mayor terror. He experimentado el mayor terror. Veo sus ojos cuando cierro los míos. Ellos son huecos, negro. Ellos me vieron y me traspasaron. Su mano morada. No voy Adomir, say vos. Say vos. Say... I fear the rest is unintelligible from that point on. This one comes from a mariner's log from around 1691. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed, I heard him. I felt a sensation. He took everything. Everything. We must return to England, and we shall not return here again at the request of the Rake. This entry is no doubt the most interesting of the ones I have past said. This one is the most lengthy and describes most description of what exactly is bothering all of these authors.
Now, we'd like it if you could recall what happened about a year ago. Step by step, if possible. Do you recall it in that manner?
I'll always recall it in that manner.
Proceed then.
3 years ago, I had just returned from a trip from Niagara Falls with my family. For the 4th of July, of course. We were all very exhausted after a long day of driving, so my wife and I put the kids right to bed and called it a night. But at about 4 a.m., I woke up thinking that my wife had gotten up to use the restroom. So I used the moment to steal back the sheets, as the wives always seem to steal them, only to wake her in the process. I apologized and told her I thought that she had just gotten out of bed. But when she turned to face me, she gasped and pulled her feet up from the end of the bed so quickly that she almost knocked me out with her knee. She then grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for about a half a second, I was able to see what had caused such this strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from us, was what appeared to be a naked man or a large hairless dog of some sort. Its body position, it was disturbing and unnatural. As if it had been hit by a car or something. I don't know. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but is more concerned to its condition. At this point, I was somewhat under an assumption that we were supposed to help it. My wife was peering over her arm and knee, tucked in the fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of motion, the creature scrambled around the side of the bed, and then crawled quickly in a flailing sort of motion right along the bed until it was less than a foot from my wife's face. The creature was completely silent. 30 seconds, probably closer to 5, but it just seemed like an eternity staring at it, just looking at my wife. The creature then placed its hand on its knee and ran into the hallway, leading to the kids' rooms. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop him before he could hurt my children. When I got to the hallway, the light from the bedroom was enough to see it crouching, hunched over about 20 feet away. He turned and looked directly at me, covered in erosive blood. I flipped the switch on the wall and saw my daughter Clara. The creature ran down the stairs while my wife and I rushed to help our daughter. She was badly injured, and I spoke only once more in her short life. She said, ever so softly, "He is the Rake." My wife. Drove her car into a lake later that night. That was when she was trying to rush Clara to the hospital, and neither survived after that. Oh, being a small town, news got around pretty quickly too, so the police were almost alright on it, but I mean, they were helpful at first, but the local newspaper took more interest than they did. The story was never published, and local television never followed it up for some odd reason. I never found out.
This is where I believe that the blackouts began, where some sort of alternative force was beginning to censor out all of these mentionings of this character named Rake. For several months, my son, Justin, and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' house. After we decided to return home, I began looking for the answers myself. I eventually located a man in the town next over who had a very, very similar story. We got in contact again and began talking about our experience. He knew of 2 other people in New York who had seen the creature we now refer to as Rake. There were, however, many instances where the creature's visit was one of a series of visits with the same person. Multiple people also mentioned being spoken to, my son included. This led us to wonder if the Rake had visited any of us in our last encounter. There were, however, many instances where the creatures visited. I set up a digital recorder near my bed and left it running all night, every night for at least 2 weeks. I would tediously scan through the sounds of me rolling around in my bed each day when I woke up. By the end of the second week, I was quite used to the occasional sound of sleep while blurring through the recording at least 8 times at about normal speed, which still took about an hour each day. On the first day of the 3rd week, I thought that I had heard something very different. What I found was a shrill voice, and I knew that it was the Rake from these excerpts I was collecting. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to transcribe it. I haven't let anyone else listen to it. All I know is that I've heard it before. Now I believe that it spoke to me. It had spoken to me before in my sleep. I don't remember hearing anything at the time. For some reason, the voice on the recorder immediately brings me back, as if I was in the shoes of all these people. The thoughts that must have gone through the minds of these people make me very upset. I have not seen the Rake yet, but I feel he is going to ruin my life. I still know that he has been in my room while I sleep, and I know, in fear, that one night I will wake up and end up like Clara.